Welcome everybody to the March 26th Board of Commissioners Special Called Meeting and Work Session. And before us today, Commissioner Rogers has an excused absence down at the legislature working for the board. We're going to have a number of presentations today by the Cobb Cumberland Community Improvement District, the Town Center Community Improvement District, and the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. Just to make sure that we meet with Commissioner's time here, we'd like to start with the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority first, if that's possible. If they're here and they're ready to go. They're not here and they're not ready to go.
They're on their way.
Okay, so in that case, we'll stay with the original agenda. So with that, we'll go with the Cumberland Community Improvement District, whoever's here. Tad, by default.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to give our annual report for the Cumberland Community Improvement District to the Board of Commissioners. I know all of you, but I am serving right now as the interim executive director of Cumberland CID, and it's my pleasure to have the opportunity to give this report. As you all may know, this is a big year for us. This is our 30-year anniversary. The CID was formed on May the 1st of 1988. So we are rapidly approaching the actual 30-year anniversary of the CID. And during that time, we started off as a road building organization, but now we have gotten into the concept of placemaking, of trying to create an environment at the Cumberland CID that is not only an office environment, but rapidly growing residential, rapidly growing retail, a 24/7 environment, and then, of course, the Battery, which is an unprecedented development for our area. Next slide, please. These are just sort of gee whiz slides. I like to show them. The first, you see 1978, that's an aerial photograph of Cumberland in 1978. The big green spot right in the middle is the Galleria, which was completely undeveloped at that time, but you can see the intersection of I-285 and 75. Then in 88, the Galleria was under construction. By 98, the area had continued to grow. By 2006, we had built the Kennedy Interchange, we had built the Cumberland Loop, and then in 2015, you can see we started construction, or we're well into construction, of the Battery and the Brave Stadium. And then the 2017 picture is reflective, basically, of what we have there today. But over a 40-year period, there's been an unbelievable amount of growth in the Cumberland area. Just in the last 5 years, on both the public and the private side combined, we've experienced $5 billion in investment in the Cumberland CID. Real estate values have grown by over $1 billion. And our 190 commercial property owners control $3 billion, 61% of the entire value in the Cumberland CID. And by 2024, which is the end of our current life, our members will have invested $180 million, which we then invest in infrastructure projects. As you know, Cumberland is one of the largest submarkets in the Southeast. We have 40 million square feet of commercial property, including retail and office. And then, of course, we have a number of corporate users, including the Home Depot, GE, and of course the Atlanta Braves and their investment at the Battery. And our newest members are Comcast and HD Supply and Synovus, all of whom within the last year have occupied new buildings within the CID. We have recently built, just mentioned 3 of them, 5 Class A office buildings, totaling 1.8 million square feet of office space, 2,050 new residential units, 500,000 square feet worth of retail, and 1,400 new hotel rooms. So it's a vibrant, rapidly growing area. projects that we're working on. This is the picture that you see here is the Bob Callan Trail, which is a very exciting trail system that we've been investing in. But we've also got, as you know, the Northwest Corridor Express lanes, Cobb Parkway, Windy Hill. We're doing streetscape beautifications, et cetera, and 60 miles of urban and greenway projects. So we're making a huge investment in the area in our partnership with Cobb County, with Cobb County DOT, and with the Board of Commissioners under our cooperation agreement, and with Georgia Department of Transportation and with Federal Highway. The most important project right now that we're working on is the Acres Mill ramp. We want to thank y'all for the $15 million worth of SPLOST investment that you've made in that project. And we are now within just a few $1,000,000 of full funding for that project and having it open within the next 3 years. So that's a very exciting project.
Tad, have we heard back from Washington about any of the,
Yes and no. We heard back on Tiger.
okay,
We did not get a Tiger grant. There was one Tiger grant in the state of Georgia that went to MARTA. But we're still in line for an infra grant. Those are going to be announced in May.
okay,
I've spoken with Congressman Handel's office, and we think we have a good shot at that grant, which would be $6 million, which would put us over the edge.
okay, so
That would put us over
that
the
one
top.
grant alone would take us over the top.
Yes,
Wow.
that's our gap right now. It's the $6 million,
Right,
which is how we crafted the amount of the application.
Okay,
If we don't receive that grant, we've got several fallback positions. We are, Mr. Chairman, we're going to build that project.
okay, thanks.
That basically concludes my remarks. You all are familiar with the Cumberland CID, but I'm delighted to answer any questions that you might have or comments.
Wasn't Cumberland the first CID in the state?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The legislation was passed in 1985, but then it took 3 years to put it together. And so we were actually officially formed on May 1 of 1988. And then for 10 years, we were the only CID in the state of Georgia. But in 1998, the Town Center CID was formed. I'm sure Tracy will be right behind me. And then over the years since then, another 25 or 26 CIDs have been formed. So there is now a huge community of CIDs, and we work together everywhere we can around connectivity projects.
Yeah, just for everybody's information, why don't you explain a little bit what CID is?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just talking about for the audience.
Community Improvement District, enabling, as I just mentioned to Commissioner Burrow, enabling legislation was passed in 1985 for commercial property owners to come together and voluntarily tax themselves an additional millage rate. In the case of the Cumberland CID, they voluntarily tax themselves an additional 5 mills. It's collected by the county, and then that 5 mills is forwarded to a board that's elected by the members. And then the board oversees infrastructure investment within the geography of the community. So it's a self-imposed tax by commercial property owners to invest in infrastructure in their area to maintain value of real estate, in a nutshell. Yes, sir.
No, just keep up the good work. There's a lot of catalytic projects going on, and it's good to see all of the improvements being made.
Thank you, Commissioner. As I said, we're here till 2024 and maybe beyond that, so we're not going anywhere. All right, I appreciate the opportunity to give this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tad. Ms. Rathbone.
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you again. We are presenting on the Town Center Community Improvement District, which was created 21 years ago in 1997, and as Tad said, is the second oldest CID in the state. There are 25 CIDs now in the state of Georgia, and Cobb is proud to be home of the first 2. So once again, leading the way in mobility solutions and economic development impact, not only for our county, but for the region as a whole. Town Center CID, we have 99% occupancy of our Class A office space. We have a number of parcels that are being considered for additional new buildings, and so some of those are actually going through the zoning process right now. It is an extremely tight market in terms of getting new tenants in because of the lack of Class A office buildings. So we're hopeful to have 2 new sites come online in the next few years, which will be a great asset for the more than 100,000 employees that come into the district on a daily basis to work. We have $1.3 billion in real estate assets. Those assets do not include the real estate of Kennesaw State University, which is the 44th largest institution in the country, and of the Cobb County International Airport, or any private parcels. So those real estate assets include multifamily housing, commercial, and restaurant, retail, hospitality.
Those new Class A's that you think are in the future, are they waiting on the South Barrett reliever to be completed? Or
So
something
they
else?
are not. One is currently under consideration, and it is actually there at Big Shanty and Chastain Meadows, which would be a really great spot from the access point of the managed lanes. There's a full managed lanes access point there at 75 that will open in September of this year.
Okay.
And then there's another open greenfield site that is in the town park area that is owned by Taylor Mathis currently on the
Okay.
market. We have $150 million of funds that have been collected from our more than 496 property owners over the 21 years, and $50 million that have been collected that have been leveraged into an over $150 million in projects. We have 15 active projects in our work plan, totaling $26 million. Some highlights from 2017, our wonderful partnership project, the Skip Span Connector, received numerous awards at the local, state, and federal level. And before her passing, we were honored to spend some time with Lainey Ship Hoover, who was the founding executive director of the Town Center CID, and present her with an award. So that was a wonderful opportunity to share in the work together. This is a project that was transformational for KSU and for Chastain Road. Great partnership project with the county as well as Georgia DOT and KSU. Has reduced traffic along Chastain Road by more than 19% and has increased the functionality of the Big Owl buses by more than 30%. So they've been able to increase their ridership times, traffic times, and then that also positively has impacted their budget. South Barrett Reliever Phase 2 is under construction and will open Memorial Day weekend. This is a double-lane roundabout behind the Dick's Sporting Goods. That is a road realignment. You'll remember Shiloh Valley and Barrett Lakes that had a heavy treed area where there were some pretty significant accidents over the past several years. That project will be completed in May, and then we'll connect to the South Barrett Reliever 3 project, which will include a 450-foot bridge across the managed lanes in 75, connecting to another roundabout, which is the image you see here looking east, where it connects at the Home Depot, which is currently a dead end, and then goes up to Barrett Parkway. You'll be able to go from the east side of Barrett Parkway all the way to 41, accessing the points along the way without actually having to get onto Barrett Parkway. So there'll be a new intersection that's lighted behind the Costco as well. This is a $33.5 million project that we've received 1.5 from CERTA. We have SPLOST dollars committed to that. The CID has invested more than $2 million, and we have a number of significant grants pending at the state and federal level. So this is a top priority project for the county, but also for GDOT. So we're anticipating full funding, knowing what the awards will look like within the next year for this project. The Northwest Corridor lanes, while that is not our project, we have definitely been partners with GDOT along the process. This is a 30-mile reversible toll lane that will go from 575 at Sixes Road and 75 at Hickory Grove. It will go all the way down, connecting to Acres Mill and to the new Acres Mill Bridge that will eventually be built in Cumberland CID. We have the most access points in Town Center CID for the Managed Lanes project. As I said before, we have the full slip ramp, the full ramp access there at Big Shanty And then we also have access at 75 and 575, as well as access at Bells Ferry Road, as well as on Barrett Parkway at 575. So a number of access points that we are taking into consideration as part of our master planning for the district, looking to see what the inflow of traffic getting to the managed lanes does to impact the area itself, and responding to those needs appropriately. So we're anticipating that there will likely be other projects that will come out of that that we may not have foreseen, because it's hard to know the numbers until sometimes they're actually there. Town Center CID ranks the highest out of 17 Metro Atlanta submarkets in hospitality numbers. This is out of all of the major areas in Metro Atlanta, Town Center is tops. We received a number of statistics from Cobb Travel and Tourism with the highest rankings in demand growth, as well as our daily rate and the cumulative revenue per room. Parks and beautification, as Tad said, CIDs have historically been infrastructure-based organizations that help build roads and get people from point A to point B. But as the diversity of our districts have changed and the inclusion of multifamily housing and more people coming into and out of CIDs to live, work, and play, quality of life has become an incredible priority for all CIDs. And how they fit together with transportation projects, mobility projects, and quality of life projects is key. So we have a number of projects that we have been working on over the past year. You all were a part of and now are proud owners of the Aviation Park and Town Center. So that was a partnership project that was fully funded by the Town Center CID and the Town Center Community Alliance. And it was a $3 million park that's aviation themed. It's the first aviation themed park in Cobb County. And as we begin the activation phase of that park, it will tell the history of aviation in Cobb, as well as have tributes to our aviation partners, both at McCollum and at Lockheed. You are welcome. We are working on lots of green space in your district, Commissioner. That is correct. That is correct. Last year, you all were a part of helping us complete our master plan update. That update looked at a number of key factors to continue the momentum that we've achieved over the past 21 years, but also to raise the bar, looking at properties that are 30 years old that are ripe for redevelopment, how we would look at those properties and bring them up to modernization. So we've been working with Dana and Jason and the Community Development Department to identify which parcels might be prime to go on particular list for incentives and such. It's also leading to a number of new studies that we have started this year. Alicia Smith, our Director of Projects and Planning, is leading the effort on all of those and really doing a fantastic job after her first year with the CID. In that master plan update, there are a couple of key things that we have identified. One of them is trail connectivity, and as you'll see here on the map, we have the ability to create a 7-mile loop through the heart of the district that connects all of the economic development and regional activity centers together through a system of trail networks that are bike and pedestrian friendly. You can see that some are already on the ground, some are programmed, and then there are just a few connection points that remain in order to complete the 7-mile loop around the district. And then you would also be able to connect east to west. And City of Woodstock has their plans finalized and construction ready to go for their connectivity of the Noonday Creek Trail from their park in City of Woodstock down to Noonday Creek Park, and then county working on connecting that last piece of trail to the Bells Ferry Trailhead where it connects to Noonday Creek. So once that's complete, it then connects to the Kennesaw Mountain Chattahoochee Trail, to the Rottenwood Creek Trail, to the Bob Callan, so on and so forth throughout the district. So you have 22 miles of north, south, east, west connectivity in addition to a 7-mile loop that we hope will not only provide mobility solutions and recreational opportunities, but will also foster opportunities for redevelopment. As we're looking at some of our studies, we're looking at how to take some of our north and south corridor streets, primarily Busby and Barrett Lakes, and how how to turn those into complete streets. So we cannot build a lot of additional roads east to west. And so how can we utilize the thoroughfares north to south in order to provide other access points for cars to travel? Instead of widening roads or adding new roads, how can we best use the roads that we currently have? So we're in the process of selecting consultants to do 2 studies along Barrett Lakes Boulevard, and we're currently already working on a study for Busby. Once those are complete, it will begin the process of the complete street concept that will help with transportation, but also with redevelopment throughout the district. This is a number of the projects looking ahead for 2017. In addition to the Town Center CID, we have a 501c3 that focuses on beautification, green space, and quality of life issues that are within the Town Center area. As you know, Town Center and other CIDs can only fund projects that are inside their boundary line. Having a 501c3 provides us the opportunity to see needs that might be in our immediate area that some might consider Town Center or that north community, but that we couldn't provide funding for through the CID. So if it's across the street from the CID boundary and there's a need to connect with a project, that's where the Alliance can come into play and be a good philanthropic partner in increasing investment for those who may not pay in otherwise. The Zagster Bike Share Program is a program that we have been partnering with the Town Center Community Alliance since it launched in November of 15. We've had more than 25,000 trips and nearly 10,000 riders. This is was one of the programs with the highest ridership of any Zagster program in the country, and still remains that way today. We are very proud of the 24 bikes we have on the ground, and we are actively engaged with our local municipalities and other jurisdictions to connect the programs with a regional bike share program, so then you can connect bikes from one district to the other, one district to a city, and not have to drop off and pick up in different places. So lots to come in the coming year. I think that'll make a huge difference in bike share connectivity, not just for the Town Center CID, but the region and the county as a whole. You were all there at the opening of Aviation Park, which was a fantastic day. Bells Ferry Trailhead was another project we completed last year. We added restrooms, we added pavilion space, we added additional trees and lighting in order to make it safer for parking. There were already 50+ parking spaces there and a bike share station on the trail. So that project's actually completed. That's just a little bit of a dated drone shot. Other parks that we're working on include the 42-acre Town Center Park, which is there at the top of Ring Road, and the mall between the Stadium Village development. And so we're currently looking at different modeling options for what that park will look like. The visioning is a partnership between the CID and the Alliance, and will truly be the green space gem of the community once complete. Founders Park is the other pocket park that we will complete this year. It is a park at the corner of Roberts and Vaughn, and it is where it's, I think, one of the most beautiful parts of the Noonday Creek Trail. You're in the middle of an office community, but you tuck back behind the woods and you think that you're in a state park somewhere else. So it's a great spot to honor the founders of the Town Center Community Alliance and the CID, and add another bike share station, as well as some educational opportunities for people visiting. So looking ahead for the Town Center Community Alliance, we are partnering with the CID to expand on the Zagster expansion activation plan for the trail, as well as Aviation Park, and the completion of Founders Park and visioning on Town Center Park. With that, I am happy to take any questions.
Not really any questions, but just some compliments. The Town Center CID does so much more as with the partnerships than the county can do on its own. And we really appreciate working together, the cooperation and the creative ideas to go forward with some of the things, projects in the works now and future. And I would like to add that not just thank you for Aviation Park, but also the Bells Ferry Trailhead, because soon we are going to be starting our sidewalk project from Big
Thank you for
Shanty
that.
down to the trailhead, which will give residents in the area more accessibility
Yeah.
to get to the trailhead.
It was definitely something when we did our trail study through our master plan. We gave everyone pipe cleaners and we said, okay, go figure out where you want additional trail connectivities. And I think there were more pipe cleaners than can fit on the little section of Bell's Ferry there. So
Right.
connecting that up to Big Shanty, and then we're finishing out that trail and current project with Cobb County right now. And then that connects through to the Noonday Creek Trail and the Big Shanty Trail.
Right, and the wider sidewalks will give an opportunity for the bikes.
Most
the
definitely. They'll
Zaxter
be wide enough that you can
runners.
do bike or pedestrian access on those trails.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Got the helicopter pad installed at the aviation park yet?
Do not have the helicopter pad. We're working on that. We're working on that. We are actually going to have an old model plane that we have had donated that is going to be refurbished, and we're hoping to have it as a pad just right outside the fence line where you can see and participate and check out what some of the older model planes look like and to be able to rotate them on an ongoing basis. So cool
Okay.
plans underway for the park, so stay
right.
tuned.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank
Very
you.
brief. And now the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. Hey, Doug?
Good afternoon. Oh, wait. I have- Y'all controlling it or am I controlling it? You have it. All right, thank you very much. Let's see if I can actually operate this thing. Good afternoon, Commissioners and Mr. Chairman. Thank y'all for having us today to do an update along with the CIDs concerning projects we're doing down with the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. For those who don't know, I'm Doug Stoner, the Chairman of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. To give a quick little history, the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority was created in 2011 by the state legislature, actually taking an old authority that previously Governor Barnes had created when he was a state senator, called the South Cobb Development Authority, which was really just in Mableton. But the new redevelopment authority was expanded out to include all of unincorporated South Cobb between the cities of Smyrna and the cities of Estelle south of the east-west connector to the Fulton and Douglas County border. So to give an idea of the geographical area that we deal with. Specifically, there is something called the South Cobb Implementation Strategy that this board adopted in 2012. And there's basically 3 areas that the county wanted to be focused on in that part of the county. So the Board of Commissioners wanted to be focused on. So it became, in conversations, asked the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority to focus, and particularly one in the sense of our conversations with the Board of Commissioners, which was what has been called the Six Flags area, which we now call the Riverside Community Area. That was something, to be very frank with you, that Six Flags would prefer us not to call it Six Flags Community. And so we came up with the idea of Riverside Community, so that's what we refer to it as. So one of those projects was, in the sense of talking with the county and part of the implementation strategy, along with talking with the property owners in that area, was how do we implement some of those issues. And one of them was concerning a particular apartment complex, which nearly 1/3 of all the police calls, not emergency calls now, police calls, were coming out of this one complex, out of that particular police zone. So the county felt it was a priority to acquire this piece of property. So obviously, working with the county and talking with the property owners in the area, the decision was made to create a special service district that the county commission created in November of 2014 to help back a set of bonds, $10 million worth of bonds. And working with the county, we came up with an IGA in the sense of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority and the Board of Commissioners concerning how those bonds should be spent in the sense of 3 projects. The other projects came from the property owners who are paying the taxes, the additional property taxes, which is an additional 3.5 mils on real property, not personal property, but real property, was imposed. What the property owners, besides the Magnolia Crossing, which they were more than happy that issue be dealt with, was also the issue concerning improving the interchanges at Riverside Parkway and also Six Flags Parkway. That was another project along with the final project, which has to do with wayfinding and signage in that area. So, but our first project was acquiring Magnolia Crossing. And just to go back, the bonds were issued in July of 2015. We received our bond dollars in September of 2015. We acquired the Magnolia Crossing property. We had been in quiet negotiations with the property owners in October 15th, 2015. And then from there, work to help move the residents out over a period of time, along with some incentives that we did to help folks move, which we did. And eventually, through the demolition process that occurred, we were able to bring that property onto the market. Now, it says here June 2016 is when we stabilized the site, but we brought it onto the market October 14th, 2016. So exactly almost 1 year, we acquired the property, were able to move the residents out, raise the structures and do any environmental remediation and put it back on the market for sale. So the market's being aggressively marketed. What you see on this photo here is actually what anyone can pick up online if you go to our website at southcobb.org. And we've had a lot of interest from numerous parties. Now, the question is, what do we want back on that site? And obviously, what we're looking for is something that's going to have an impact in the sense of creating jobs, but also have a positive impact on the community in that area, and this, besides just jobs. And the idea is what's happened in a lot of other communities, like in Ackworth, where Commissioner Weatherford's originally served, or my experience in Smyrna with the Smyrna Downtown Development Authority, is what we call the halo effect. So we want to make sure we have a critical mass project, as I put it, that hopefully will change perceptions and bring other investments to this community. So that's the purpose at the end of the day, and help the individuals and the folks in that community with services or additional job opportunities that currently are not available there. And so that's in the sense of our stated our missions and goals and objectives. Obviously, working closely with the commissioners and particularly with Commissioner Cupid, since this is obviously in her district, and working with the local property owners. In the sense of the other project that we are doing, which has just started, was the I-20 interchange landscaping beautifications. Again, these were Six Flags Parkway and also Riverside Parkway. And we just had a groundbreaking ceremony, which the chairman and the vice chair, chairwoman were able to attend. And this is a artistic rendition of what's going to happen. And this is at Riverside Parkway. And just so you understand, there's nearly 10 acres between the two interchanges. So people do not realize how large, particularly Riverside, is. And obviously, we've working with one of our firms at Ecom who worked on this. We obviously went out to an RFQ, and Russell Landscaping won that contract. Just so you know, we came in under budget, and which just to let you know, we have been under budget on every project that we have done. We obviously try to be very careful with the dollars we're spending. As I said, the groundbreaking ceremony was on March 9th, and the estimated completion, weather permitting, will be hopefully in mid-May, is our understanding, in the sense of the plantings. And of course, we're using very much drought-resistant plants. Also, just recently, as you remember, we signed an IGA with y'all in the sense of using excess funds from the Special Service District beyond the needs to pay the bonds to help maintain this landscaping, which is obviously something the property owners are very happy about. And this makes a statement. What this is going to do is set a standard for this part of the county, makes a statement for anyone passing along I-20 that they've entered somewhere different. And as part of that, another one of the projects that we're going to do, and this is a photo, by the way, of the groundbreaking ceremony that we had on March 9th and everything. And we looked at, had a very nice sunny day to make it happen. So glad that everybody could attend. The next thing is what we call the South Cobb Gateway wayfinding signage. Now, what you see up here actually came from a marketing and branding study that was done for South Cobb specifically, that the Board of Commissioners funded and asked the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority to oversee. And this type of style signage was approved by this Board of Commissioners. And so what we've decided to do, working with the property owners in the area, and understanding that they wanted some wayfinding signage when you came off the interstate, was also to make an announcement to folks that this is South Cobb, this is where you're at. And so this type of signage is what we're about to put in too once we're finished with the landscaping project. And in fact, we're working on an RFQ currently that will be issued soon to put in signage, monument signs at the two interchanges. So when you come off the interstate, you know where you're at. You know you're in Cobb County. You know specifically you're in South Cobb. And with some wayfinding once you get off to either Six Flags Parkway or Riverside Parkway. Pretty much that is, in a sense, very quickly the projects we're doing. And so we are pretty close to being done in the sense of our next major project, in the sense of the landscaping. And then right after that, hopefully have the installation, hopefully by the end of the year, of the signage, if everything goes according to plan. And at that point, obviously, we've been having conversations with the commissioner and the county manager on what we may be doing next, in the sense of working on the South Cobb implementation strategy as the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. At this point, I'm happy to take any questions or answer any questions you have.
I'll start with Commissioner Cupid first, if you have any.
Not many questions, as I'm fortunate that Doug and I meet regularly on projects in the area, but appreciate seeing these projects moving forward, some of them which have been underway for years now, but considering where this part of the county has been and where it can go, those years certainly don't seem to be as long as the amount of time people have waited to see improvement in this area. So it's nice to have these projects coming out the ground. And every day I see that road work happening by I-20 and look forward to that dovetailing, not only the good work at the entrances around the county, but Fulton Industrial is also doing some work in the
Yes.
immediate area. And I think it just helps to uplift some of the visual expectation and hopefully infrastructure expectation that people have of the South Metro area. So it's good to see these projects moving along. Thank you, Doug.
Commissioner Williford.
Thank you.
Commissioner. Well, just a quick comment on that, on what you said. That is a challenge that we all deal with, is perception versus reality. And that's part of our job when we're talking to folks who come to visit, say, the property that we currently own, is dispelling those misperceptions. It's amazing the understanding of what the income levels are, the sense of the businesses in the area. People have an idea of something that's really 25 years out of date. And as a native of Smyrna, I can definitely relate to that, because that used to be the joke, is like, you live in Smyrna? Of course, that's no longer a joke. So I see no difference in South Cobb and that area, the opportunities that we have for the future.
Maybe give us like a summary of your status, where you are revenue-wise. I know you purchased that property, and I assume that'll be reinvested once you sell it or whatever, and you have other projects, or you continue to make this an ongoing thing, correct?
Right. We acquired the property in the sense of the total cost of acquiring Magnolia. We obviously brought in the Marietta Housing Authority very quickly to manage, because obviously we still had residents there, so we brought in some folks who understood how to do that. We also brought security on board, to be very honest with you, because we had issues there. And then finally, once we went through the demolition process, because we had to remove the structures and we had to deal with some environmental remediations. Overall total of the roughly $10 million that we started with, about $5.1 million was spent on Magnolia Crossing specifically, in the sense of all those things I've discussed. So we're sitting basically right now around just under, right about 4.8 million roughly that we have left. The landscaping project between the two interchanges was basically projected to be about $1.5 million. We came in just slightly over $1.1 million, like 1.32,000. So again, we were able to come under budget. So if you're looking at that, we're estimating that we have, before we do the signage, which we have obviously have a budget for, we have a budget for that, we obviously haven't gotten the numbers back in the sense of how much that will cost us. We're sitting at around $3.7 million that we still have that we have not spent. We expect that probably the signage will run somewhere around, we would not be surprised if it's somewhere around $700,000, just based on experiences that we've seen with other communities. So it's very possible we could be sitting on, at the end of all this, and of course, we had $1 million contingency that we had set aside before we began the projects. Obviously, we have not had needed to touch that. We may be sitting on close to $3 million. To that point, we have to spend 85% of our bond funds by September 15th of this year. And that's where we've been in some conversations with, obviously, Commissioner Cupid, and with the county manager on some opportunities for us in that area to potentially acquire additional properties that would be helpful for redevelopment purposes. And obviously, I can't really discuss those as we are in conversations and negotiations with people. But I know this Board of Commissioners will be hearing from us very soon on that issue.
But once
So-
those redevelopment properties are redeveloped and sold, then that revenue comes back to you, correct? If
Yeah,
you
and the
reinvest it?
revenue comes, that's correct. The property, when we sell the properties, let's say, that we have, and that revenue comes back to the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. Our intention is obviously taking that and using it as a revolving fund to either invest in additional properties that need to be redone or redeveloped, or other opportunities there in that particular district. And understand, that money can only be spent within what's called the Six Flags Special Service District. That money cannot be spent outside of those boundaries. And so, depending on where those boundaries are, because those boundaries can be changed and expanded by this board, we can spend those dollars that we receive back in that district for future redevelopment projects or efforts.
Great. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it to the groundbreaking, but
Totally understand.
that project is going to be is really going to beautify the area, which is long overdue. I never could understand when you drive up to Six Flags why it looked like that. And this is really going to spruce that up and be much more attractive.
Well, Commissioner, what we hope to do is, and this is kind of what we've done, similar to what Acworth did, what we did in Smyrna when I served on the Development Authority there, was we set a standard for the community in the sense of the additional, the property owners in the area of what the standard is going to be for that, and hoping people meet those standards. Obviously, working with the Board of Commissioners and the Planning and Zoning and Community Development to set high standards for redevelopment in that community. So the landscaping is kind of that first step of saying, here's what we expect, and in the sense of the standards for this part of Cobb County. So definitely appreciate
I
your
look
support.
forward to seeing everything.
Well, thank you very much.
I just want to make sure I understand the technical structure here. So you have the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority, and then within that authority, you have the Six Flags Special Service District. Are the boundaries the same?
No.
They're not.
The Six Flags Special Service District covers an area predominantly south of I-20 and just slightly above along Riverside Parkway, which of course that was originally called Six Flags Six Flags Drive, is now called Riverside Parkway, and somewhat down Lee Industrial on the north side of I-20.
Okay.
So we only encompasses, generally at this point, only commercial residential, meaning apartments, and commercial properties. We had avoided owning owner-occupied housing when we drew the district. Of course, I should say, we did not draw the district. The Board of Commissioners draw the district. So yes, it's a subset of the jurisdiction of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority, as I mentioned earlier. That district is the east-west connector is our northern boundary. The western city limits of Smyrna is our eastern boundary. The western boundary is the eastern city limits of Austell, and of course, our county boundaries with Fulton and Douglas County.
Okay, so do you draw your revenue from the whole redevelopment authority area or just from the Six Flag District?
Well, the Special Service District obviously draws its revenue from the millage that was imposed on those properties.
Right.
The South Cobb Redevelopment Authority, through some financing mechanisms, if, say, example, we do what's called conduit financing, is anywhere in that geographical jurisdiction I just mentioned in the sense of the larger South Cobb area.
I'm still not understanding how that conduit works.
Yeah, I know. It is kind of interesting.
Cobb Redevelopment.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's like the Development Authority of Cobb County, that's
Yes.
simple, okay.
It's exactly the same. It's
Okay.
just we're limited to a certain jurisdictional area.
Okay.
Downtown Development Authorities.
Yeah.
He made it abundantly
Yeah,
clear.
okay.
Finally, after 15 months, he said something I understand.
Other than good morning, yes, we had trouble with that.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank y'all for your support and help as we work on this together. Thank y'all.
Okay, unless we have anything else, we're adjourned until, recess till tomorrow.